Hey dudes, my name's Blekoh, and I'm making a real-time text-adventure multiplayer online dungeon crawler in which you can join with up to 6 people to navigate through dungeons, level up, find loot, and kill monsters and dungeon bosses. It's called KIRO II, the Wizard's Guild, and it launches in April, and you can wishlist it on Steam right now. I'll put a link down below. At this point, I've already finished most of the mechanics in the game. The biggest things were to get the Steam networking system and the Steam inventory system working, since the game is multiplayer and you get to keep your items and trade them using Steam's trade system. There's still a ton of small things to do and improvements I need to make to get ready for release. First of all, my main man menu needed some loving, so I went ahead and made a parallax background for it with some clouds and whatnot. I threw a shader on the waterfall picture to make it look animated, and also made a little song for it and put together a common theme for the UI, so it's blue. The lobby system mostly worked already, but what I didn't mention before is that there isn't a way for players to go back to the lobby during a game, and also if players left the game, it kinda broke. Handling players that get disconnected or leave the game is kind of a tedious thing to handle, because it really depends on who the host is. So for my game, I decided to make it so that if a client leaves the game, then all that happens is their character despawns and people can keep playing as if nothing happened. So that's easy, but for the host, if the host leaves, then I have to make the current game end, and all players go back to the menu. Some games will decide a new host, and actually Steam does this automatically, but unfortunately, with how the game is set up, not all of the clients would have enough information to become the new host if the old host gets disconnected. So yeah, that's how it's gonna work. During the game, it's sometimes useful to talk to other players if you're playing with randos, but I feel like this can usually get pretty toxic, so I thought it'd be funny to only let players use canned chat messages that are pretty positive, so you can't be a during a game. For now, I left full chat in the lobby, and we'll see how that goes. At the very least, I implemented it to use Steam's chat filter system, so at least people can control their own chat filters within Steam, and it blocks out the baddies. The original KIRO for Steam and Commodore 64 was all about weapons. You go through a dungeon and collect weapons to kill monsters and whatnot, which you can also do in the new game, but it's called KIRO II, the Wizard's Guild, so that kinda implies that I need to implement magic. A player has 6 types of skills that they level up: Strength, Constitution, Dexterity, Wisdom, Intelligence, Charisma. Strength and Dexterity are obviously for weapons, but Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma are used for magic. So there's 3 types of magic skills. Intelligence uses the cast slot, so you can equip a cast spell, and as long as you have the required intelligence level and the runes, you can cast your spells. Most of these will be for doing damage. For Wisdom, this is more of like a cleric, so Wisdom spells also require runes, but they use the prayer slot, and are more for utility and team support, but also some of them might do damage as well. There are basic low-level prayers like Warpstone, which places a warpstone down, or Warp, where you can warp to the nearest warpstone, and other healing spells like Heal and Revive, which, heal and revive. Any support spell that doesn't do damage still gives experience, whereas spells that deal damage only give experience from killing monsters. Finally, there's Charisma, but while I do have the plan for how it works, I haven't yet implemented anything, so I'll talk about that some other time. Since I have a ton of weapons, armor, and spells, I have to have icons for each different item for Steam's inventory system. Icons are kind of a pain to find if you don't feel like making them, since a lot of the time they have pretty restrictive licenses in order to use them. I could just make them, and I might eventually do that, and this might be controversial, but for now I just decided to generate a bunch of icons using Stable Diffusion, which was pretty easy to set up on my computer and type in the description for each item. And on to something less controversial, I added Steam achievements to the game. For now there's just an achievement each time you kill a monster or boss for the first time, but I might add some different types later on. Also, I moved on to the next dungeon, which isn't really a dungeon since it's a forest, but we can just call it a forest dungeon. So for the first two dungeons, they're very blue, which is cool, and it makes sense to me that everything is blue because it's low light, so you can't discern colors. I think it's too restrictive to just have every dungeon be all blue, and I think people would get tired of that. So I wanted to mix it up a little bit for the third dungeon, which I think it looks pretty neat. I made the tile set, some fancy shader water, a parallax background, and player footsteps to throw it all together. It's definitely not done yet, but I thought it looked cool, so I wanted to show it off a little bit. Anyway dudes, that's all I got. See ya!